what TV shows was I not able to include in my countdown of the 25 best TV shows of this century because they'd been canceled? These are one-season wonders, shows that are gone too soon. I still recommend you check them out because some of them are available to stream and are out there, sometimes just released for free because they think, well, these series nobody wants to watch. But let's start off with broadcast TV, because broadcast TV, and it seems weird now, but they used to have really good content. This is before basic cable started airing a lot of great shows, and then premium cable stepped up their game. HBO was doing it, but then Showtime and Stars and some other channels caught up. The streamers, of course, didn't exist. But in the late 90s, you had some great one-season wonders like Action, a TV show with Jay Moore. I would highly recommend that you check out. It's available pretty much anywhere. I remember thinking, God, this show's so great. Why did it get canceled, even at the time? And then Brimstone, that's another show that would be totally right for a reboot. You might want to check that out. Great plot, and can do it even better now, 20 years later. The fifth place is a show called Wonderland, which, unlike those last two, which were 1999, this was 2000. This was a medical series. It's all about mental health, and basically was ahead of the curve on a lot of things. I think it was only lasted like 8 episodes before ABC pulled. I don't even know if they aired all the episodes. I think it's one of those where they might have aired like 4 and then shelved the rest. So that's how much they really didn't give this show a chance. And I would love to see it catch on and maybe do a reboot. It's hard to have shows on here now, especially in the later part of the century, because so much stuff that's quality, it gets picked up and put somewhere else. It happened with the Mindy Project, Arrested Development, all these shows. Usually, for the worse, I would say, usually when a series changes networks, it rarely improves in quality. That's just my opinion from what I've seen, but Wonderland is a show that could benefit from it. So is Kingpin. This was a show that was on NBC. It only lasted 6 episodes. And believe it or not, NBC had a show where a drug cartel leader was the head of the series. It was the protagonist. And this was a quality show. Both of these are things that would be on FX probably 10 years later, or even a few years later if they'd come out. But I just don't know if that was an option at those times. So those are the 5th places. 4th place, speaking of FX, is a show called Terriers, which most people who've seen this show love it, but it only lasted 1 season. I don't know why FX, they had Tyrant on for 3 years. They've had some stuff that really didn't work, and they've extended that to multiple seasons. I don't know why they didn't give Terriers a 2nd season. Almost everybody who's seen this show loves it. The 3rd place is also an FX show. It's called Thief. Thief has Andre Braugher in it, and it was, you could watch it as 6 episodes. It works as a complete miniseries, but I think they were going to extend it. They wanted to extend it, but FX was like, no, the demand is just not there. But this is another great quality series, just like Kingpin, that probably would have been extended if it had come out a few years later on a different network. Number 2 is a Cinemax series. Now, Cinemax has surprisingly quality television shows. They had Banshee. They have some shows that are going to show up in my 25 best of all time countdown. And that's shocking to most people because they think of Cinemax as like HBO's bastard cousin. Nobody talks about it. They're like, oh, that's the one that wound up in jail. And we don't talk about him that much, So it's almost like the troubled child of HBO. People think of it mostly for pornography or like older movies HBO doesn't want anymore. But Quarry is a great example of a 1-season wonder that was an excellent series, should have been extended, had everywhere in the world to go for a 2nd season. Quality made, cinematography is excellent, the action sequences work, the dramatics the acting is good, the plot is great. So please check out that show if you can. And then the best show that was canceled, and this kills me not to include this in my countdown. I really wanted to include this, but it's Rubicon. This was a show that AMC had for only 1 season, and it's a conspiracy thriller. It's like those 1970s conspiracy thrillers, The Parallax View or The Conversation, where this guy who works for an intelligence agency that oversees all the rest of the intelligence agencies. So after 9/11, all the intelligence agencies started to see the need to coordinate better, and he works for one that oversees them, and he starts to unravel a conspiracy of a terrorist attack that may be used. I don't want to spoil it too much and go into it, but I'll say Rubicon, it does start a little slow. The first half is a little slow, but by the end, you'll be like, oh, I can see why he recommended this, because the last few episodes, I feel like they could have been the Bush era years or the Trump era years. I mean, this is exactly how ahead of the curve that it was, is that it was very clearly seeing things that hadn't happened yet. So those are 5 one-season wonders. And if you haven't heard of any of those shows, because some of them, a lot of people said, I don't even know what Rubicon is. I've never heard of it. And that's great. That's the point, is to sort of get awareness out there. Maybe you can check it out. And in the comments, if you want to recommend some that I maybe forgot about, I'm sure they exist. I'm sure there's been a lot of great canceled shows out there.